Hello. So in this part, I will be talking about the ClimaCheck online system, what that is, what it's used for, look in the system, how we navigate and so in the system, and so on. So the ClimaCheck online system, that's our online platform. Basically, it's a platform that where you send real-time data. Your measurement is done on your machine, on your chiller, or on your system. The data is sent to our online server, and all the data is stored there, and all the calculation and presentation is done online through a web browser. So this is to compare with the PC software, where you're just making the logging or the measurement locally with your system and logging in with your PC software. Now you're measuring with the same hardware, but you then send the data to our online server. So most of the systems connected to ClimaCheck Online today are fixed installations. We have real-time data. Data comes in once every minute, all the time. But as we mentioned in the hardware part, the portable, the ClimaCheck on-site system, on-site hardware, can also be used and send data to ClimaCheck Online. So you can do you can do permanent measurements to online, but you can also use the ClimaCheck on-site hardware and send the data to the online server. The online platform then, as I mentioned, it has real-time values. We are creating, you can look at historical data, and we will be looking at this. You have a performance dashboard in there, you have energy reporting, and you, of course, as you have real-time data, you can also get alerts on SMS or email. So this is what it looks like in your web browser. You go to online.climacheck.com, you enter your username and your password, you log in, and then you get access to your measurement, to your installations. There is also a demo account that you can use if you want to try it out and have a look at it. It says there at the bottom, it's just ClimaCheck as user and demo 001 as password. You can log in, have a look at some examples. So you log in with your username and your password. When you're logged in, you get some more menus on top there, where you can select your different plants, your different measurements, your different circuits, what you want to look at, and so on. We will go through not all of them today, but a lot of them today. So that's where you have all the menus here at the top. On the right side, you can choose language. ClimaCheck Online is available in a number of languages. So you can select language you want to use. You can choose in what type of units, if you want Celsius or Fahrenheit, and so on. So you can select units from the other menu there. And there on the right side, you also have a help menu, which gets where you can get the complete manual for the ClimaCheck Online. So that will show you all the things we will go through today and more. So if you have any questions, you can go in and have a look at that manual. We moved on now to the menu here that says Select Circuit Process. So there you will have all your measurement displayed. So you can, in this case now, we have some status menu here, but then all of these different menu options here are different measurements, different systems. So this can be either just one circuit or one chiller, or it can also be a whole plant with multiple chillers. We will look at how that differs in the coming slides. So from this select circuit process, you select your measurement. If you only have one system, you will only have, of course, one option on this select circuit process menu. So you select your process, and then depending on how your system is set up, you might enter this flowchart page. This is very similar to what we see in the PC software. All the time, the latest data that comes in, the most recent data that has come into the server will be displayed in this flowchart page, together with the results like capacity, COP, compressor efficiency, and so on. So it gives you a good overview of the system, what it looks like. And of course, here you need to this will need to reflect the system you are measuring on. So this flowchart will of course change depending on what you are measuring on. But in this case, it's a simple one circuit system. So the same way as in the flowchart, in the PC software, the measured values, temperature, pressure, the power input will be have this yellow background or color, and other colors will be used for calculated values. Like on the cold side, you have COP and capacity. Warm side here, you have again COP and capacity. Condensing, evaporation, superheat, subcool. And as I said, this will update each time a new data comes in. From the view menu, then you can select different things. So you can, from this view, you can look at that flowchart that we just looked at. You can also look at, select this dashboard. This is basically the dashboard. And dashboard shows you SEI, System Efficiency Index, and the sub-efficiency for the SEI. We will go through more in detail what SEI is and how it is used in another presentation. But on the online, it's presented like this, very similar to what you see in the PC software. On the left side, top left side here, you have some information that is entered for your measurement, for your plant, for your chiller. You can see what values that are shown now, and you can also see last time your system or this system was in operation. You have this graph here where you see the last hour of data. So you can get an understanding what the system is doing, if it's stable or not, if it's on or off, and so on. And from this, you can also click in this and select the data to show. So if you click here to select the data, and then that point will be shown down here, where you have the SEI, the System Efficiency Index. You have the sub-efficiency for refrigerant cycle, compressor, condenser, and evaporator. And this is then displayed with these meters. So you see what your system is doing, how it's operating. And then below each of these, you have some key values, some key information together with this SEI or sub-efficiency. So, for example, if we look at condenser, of course you have the actual value, the condenser efficiency, 86% in this case. But then you also have some key values for the condenser. So you have the heating capacity, you have the secondary side, water, air, in, out. You have the delta T of the secondary side. You have some approach, you have subcool. So basically data that are key values for the condenser, and the same thing for the evaporator, compressor, and the total SEI. You can also, on the right side here, you have some more settings, so you can choose if you want to show this data or not. You can remove or hide or show it. You have some more instruction, basically what I am talking about now, what the different things are. And you have also an option to print or export what you're looking at right now with this print function. So this is the way we present the SEI in ClimaCheck Online. And this is done for each circuit that is measured or is connected to the online service. Again, from the view menu, you can select this from the view menu and go into what we call what is the table. There are two different tables. There's the user table and the system table. System table, the ClimaCheck will set up when we set up a measurement on ClimaCheck Online. We will set up and select values to show for that system. So, and that will be shown in the system table. User table can look exactly the same, or basically it's a table for the user. So you can go in with your user and select what you want to show with your user. So you can have different tables for the same system. You can have two different tables. So the system table will be the same for the system, independent on which user you log in with, but the user table will of course be connected to your user. The same thing here, we're working with different colors for measured values and calculated values. And what we're looking at here now is the system table, which we have set up. So we will select, usually we show, of course, the SEI and the sub-efficiencies, all the measurements that is done on the system, temperature, pressures, and the relevant calculated values for the systems as well. So capacity, COP, energy values, and so on. You can select how many each row here is one data point, so 1 minute basically, as we are getting data each minute. So we have one row is one data point, and you can select how many you want to show per page. You can select which period you want to show. You can go directly to a certain date, year, month, date here, and time. So if you want to look at the table data 2 days ago at 3:30 in the afternoon, you can just go in here and enter that date and time, and you will will be data for that time will be shown. You can export the data you are showing directly to Excel from here. And what you can also do is this, on this menu here, there's this go to. You can select the date and time that you are showing here, and then you can go directly to the flowchart or to the dashboard that you have just looked at and show the same date. So if you see something strange or something interesting in this table here, you can then, with this menu, select go to flowchart, and it will then show that same data in the flowchart. So that was the table. From this view menu, again, you can select the system end user, again, graphics, same thing here. You have one page for the system and one page for the user that you can set up individually if you like. And each of these system and users has 2 charts. So you have system chart 1, system chart 2, and user chart 1 and user chart 2. Same thing here. when ClimaCheck sets up, configures a measurement on the online server, we set it up also the graphics here to show relevant data. If you look at the system graphics, user graphics, you can select whatever your user want to look at. So here you can look at data over time, of course. If you move your mouse over this view, you can also see the data like this. So you see the actual data or the actual number on the data at that point. So you can move it back and forth here and look at exactly what the data is. You can, by clicking on these down here, you can show and hide data that is in this. So if I don't want this black here is the compressor efficiency. If I don't want to show that right now, I will just go down here and I click here at compressor efficiency variable, and then it will disappear. So, and there are also some export functions here, so you can actually export exactly what you see here in this window right now to a PDF or to as a picture. Now we move from this chart to this setup page here. Here you see all the available variables on the online server, and you also see which ones are selected. These ones that are selected here now is the one that was shown in chart 1. So here you can go in and select or add or remove data you want to look at. You can add or remove and then just update by clicking on Create Chart and looking at that now. Or you can add and remove and then also save it permanently, and that will save it for the next time you log in. If you just add or remove a couple of values and then press update, the default will go back the next time you load this measurement. So you can select, choose if you want to save this permanently or not. Chart 2 and values to show chart 2, they look exactly the same. It's just that you can choose, have a different setup of values you want to look at, so you don't need to select and deselect many values each time. You can have 2 different setups here. There is also a menu called Table and Graphics Settings. These are the settings in the background that controls both the table and this chart that I've looked at. This can also be found from this View menu. So basically, here you can, as you can see, you can select which color. These are all set up when directly when ClimaCheck sets up a measurement. But if you want to, you can change color. You can also select which ones values should be shown in the table and which values should be shown in the chart. So from here it's the same. Yeah. So from here you can select what to show. It is also possible, let's say you have one measurement and then you're doing a second installation, same type of systems, you want it set up the same way. There's also a function here where you can import the settings from a different process, different installation. So then you don't need to add all that settings again. You can just select it from this menu and then import the system settings or import the user settings. We looked at some of it, but of course then this will show and hide these different columns in the table and graphics. So depending on these settings, these columns will be shown or hidden or shown when you then go to and look at the table. What we're showing here is pretty much a basic setup. When ClimaCheck sets up the system, we, of course, as I mentioned, we show, we also separate, so we have the evaporator, the cold side, where you have the secondary evaporator, water may be in and out. You have the evaporation, compressor in, superheat. We separate, so we have that as one part, and then we have another part where we have the warm part, warm or high pressure. So secondary condenser in and out, condensing, expansion valve in, subcool. And then it usually looks like this with the discharge, the power input to the compressor, and then you have the COP and the capacity. And then one set of that is showing the SEI values with the sub-efficiencies. But as I just have shown, you can hide or show any of these values as you like on your installation. There's also energy statistics on the online server. We are getting data every minute. We are measuring power input and energy consumption of at least the compressors. And many times we are on fixed installations, permanent installations. You are also measuring pumps or fans and auxiliary loads. And then we can show that in this energy statistics. So this is available for all the measurements you're doing with the online server. You have the columns here that is show the actual energy consumption for that day. You also in the same graph have the ambient temperature that is usually highly relevant to the energy consumption, so that is shown in the same graph here. And then we also show what we call the predicted energy, which we come back to in the coming slides here. And the same way as in the graphs, by clicking below here, you can hide or show the data that is displayed, so the outdoor temperature, the actual energy, this signature that we'll come back to. So you can just click on that and hide and show what you want to look at in that graph. Of course, you can also then select which period you want to look at. And that looks like this. You select the period. You select the resolution if you want to look at energy per day, per hour, and so on. You can select if you want to look at the energy or the cost, so kilowatt hours or in euros or dollars or whatever your currency is. You can also choose to look at the CO2 and you can, as we just shown in the previous slide, you can look at one plant. You can also actually look at two different plants or two different chillers at the same time, or even the same chiller or plant at different periods. And then you can use this interval too. So let's say you want to look at the whole year, you want to look at the energy consumption per day, and you select the date, and then if you press this interval 2, you have a second interval or date you can select, and you can then look at data from different periods or two different installations or measurements in the same graph and compare them directly. You can also, if you're measuring auxiliary, or if you want to look at cooling and heating energy, you can select this show subcategories, and then you will not only look at energy, you will also then look at heating and cooling energy in the same graph. So you make this. You make your selections here, you create chart, and then it will update and show you like this. So in the background, we are getting all this energy data. So energy consumed, we have the energy consumed by the system for each hour. As we've seen, we also have the outdoor temperature. We are always measuring that, or either we measure it or we're taking it from an online service. But we always want to connect the outdoor temperature to a measurement. And with this data, the energy consumed and the outdoor temperature, we can create this energy signature. And that is done in the background automatically when you start measuring with online server. And what this is then is the energy consumed by a system over different ambient temperatures. So down here you have different ambient temperatures. Here you have the energy consumed per hour. So if we go in here at 5 degrees Celsius, we can see that this system is consuming 2 kilowatt hours per hour. So all the data we have so far for this system at 5 degrees Celsius, the average energy consumed is 2 kilowatt hours. Of course, from the beginning, when you don't have so much data, you will not have this widespread of temperatures, and you will just have a few data points. But as you're measuring, you get more and more data, and you can start. The server will build this signature up in the background. Of course, what we're looking at here now is a heat pump. You can see that as the ambient temperature decreases, the energy consumption goes up. Of course, for a chiller, it will look the other way around and go up at higher temperatures. Okay, so the server is doing this in the background. I should also mention that you see that you have a blue and a red line here, and this signature is actually divided over high and low load. So you can enter a schedule for a measurement, typically office hours or opening hours for a store, and then the server will divide the energy consumed over a high load and low load period, and that is what we are looking at here with the blue and the red line. For this system here, there is basically no difference between high and low load periods, but typically for a store you would see a bigger difference here. This is another example for an energy signature. This is from a geothermal plant, and in this picture here we have also added, so you can see the signature here, the blue and red line, basically showing you the average energy consumption at different ambient temperatures. We have also here added how many data points we have for each temperature. So for example here, in this system has the most number of data points at 1 degrees Celsius ambient temperature. So that's above 300, around 325 values right now for that temperature. So since the period we are looking at for the system, it has had 325 hours of operation where the ambient temperature has been 1 degree. So why do we want to look at this? The reason is that we want to understand how good the signature is. So as you can see, when we're moving down here, where we just have a few hours of data, also the signature gets a little bit erratic and going up and down like this. So we just want to get an understanding on how good is this signature, how good data do we have. So then we can look at how many hours we have for this energy signature. In this example also you can see what happens with a system like this where we're using it for both cooling and heating. So this is a geothermal plant. It is mostly used for in heat pump mode in the winter. As you can see, you have quite a lot of energy consumed at low temperatures. It goes down to 0, so it's not used at all at between 11 degrees and around 15 degrees Celsius here. And then you can see in the summer, a little bit warmer temperatures, you can see that it's then started to be used as a chiller plant also instead. So that's why the signature looks like this. Okay, so we have this energy signature. What do we use it for? Well, when we have this data, we can then plot this information on top of the energy statistics. So now this picture again shows energy statistics. You have the ambient temperature here at the top. Each column, each bar here is actual energy consumed, and the line here is showing data from the energy signature. So what we do is we look at this hour here. We know that, okay, the system is using this much, we are measuring that. Historically, at this temperature, it used this much, as this line here shows. So we are plotting the information from the energy signature on top of the energy consumed. And then we can see that, okay, this first one here, this system here, they have started measuring. They did some work on the system. They managed to lower the energy consumed. So then you can see that this line here shows what this system was using at different ambient temperatures before this point. The green line here is showing what the system is using after this point forward. The difference here is the saving for this particular system. So how much energy they have saved after they done optimization at this point here. So this is a very powerful tool you can use to immediately see from the signature and the energy statistics how much your savings are. We come back in level 2 go more into depth on these signatures and how to use them and how they are set up. Another function, now we moved away from the energy statistics. Now another function on the server is start monitoring or start statistics. Basically, you can set up the server to count the starts and stops of the compressors. What we're looking at here is a system with 4 different compressors. You have compressor 1, 2, 3, and 4. These, of course, then are different dates, so March 22, 24, 3, 24, and so on. And you can see how many starts the different compressors has had over these days. And you can see that compressor 1, 2, and 3 has around 55 starts each day, and compressor 4 has around 20. Starts and stops, we come back to this, but why we want to monitor and show this like this is that starts and stops can highly influence the wear and tear on your compressors. So you want to reduce the starts and stops as much as possible, and this is a good tool to use to show how your system is doing now, and if you're working on it, if you're getting your starts and stops down. So this is done on the server. It's counting the starts and stops on the compressor. You can also look at the sequence. So in this case here, this is the same system. You have 4 compressors. These are 4, in this case, these are 4 parallel parallel compressors. And you can see the sequence between them. So you can see here that it looks like, yeah, okay, compressor 4, which we saw had less starts and stops. Well, that is basically operating all the time. Yeah, it has some short stops here, and then it starts again, stop, and then starts again. But the other ones just seem to be going on and off all the time. In this case, since this is parallel, what you would like to see is, of course, that one compressor starts, and then if the consumption or the need increases, you should start another compressor, and then both of these should run, and then you should add another one. You don't really want this, because in this system now, all of these 4, or at least these 3 compressors here are just going on and off. So this is also something you would need to work on this system, and this is a good tool and to show and to see what they are doing and how they are controlled. We'll come back to this much more when we look at analyzing and looking at the data. But this is one of the tools you can use to look at how your system is working. Just shortly, there is also a view, a connection view. As I said, you're measuring and you're sending the data to our server. So in this view here, which we call connection history, you can see that you are getting data all the time. As I said, the default setting is 1 data point per minute. So you should have, if you get all the data, it should look something like this with 60 data points per hour. So here you can see then that you had a drop here, you had some problems. It was a long period here for this system where it was completely offline. And so then you get a feeling of your data quality, let's say, that the server is receiving. If your system is connected with the modem, you will also see this signal strength for the modem here in this view. So this is just a quick view to see that your system is receiving the data as it should. Of course, if you have if your system goes offline, you can of course set up alarms for that, so you get a warning or an alert when the system has gone offline, and you need to look at why. So you can we have looked at different ways to look at your data on the online server so far. It is also possible to export the data from the server. You can export what we call the raw data from here. So the raw data, that would be basically the values you are measuring, so temperature, pressure, power input, basically the data as it looks like when it comes into the server before we have done any calculations on them. So this is just the raw data you can export if you like. You can select just 1 day, or you can select an interval of many days and export all that to a file. You can also export what we call the process data. And the process data is basically same data as we display in the table. So it will be most of the measured values, temperature, pressure, but also then the calculated values like superheat, subcool, compressor efficiency, capacity. All these calculated values will also be exported when you use the process export here. At the bottom here, you also have an option to export the energy, just the energy data. So basically the data you see in the energy statistics, you can export that to an Excel file. For the process data, it can look something like this. You choose a start and an end date. You can, in one file or one export, you can export up to 90 days. You enter an email that you want this data to be sent to. You can select if you want to export the system, then it should look like this, or if you click this, it will then export a user table instead. You can select then if you want the language and what units you want to use, and you press here, and within an hour you get a link to this email where you can download the file. And as I said, you can export up to 90 days, so 3 months basically in one file. If you want more data, you just need to select different periods, start and end date, and order more process data reports. The raw data, you just select a single day like this and press download. It will immediately give you a downloadable file with just the raw data. Or you can select a period and same thing, just click download and it will give you a downloadable comma-separated file with the data. The export of energy can look something like this, and then you can download that to an Excel file. So you get the average temperature for that hour. So the energy data would be hourly. The other two would be per minute. And in the energy data, you get the average temperature and then the energy that's connected for the system. So in this case, it will just be the electrical energy here and the cooling and heating, calculated cooling and heating energy. If you had more measurement or like pumps and fans, that would be added to these other energy variables. Under settings, you can find some basic settings. For a fixed install in ClimaCheck, you will probably not need to go in here if you're not changing the refrigerant or changing the systems in a major way. It will be set up for your system and then it will just run. If you're using ClimaCheck Online with the portable ClimaCheck on-site hardware and sending the data to the server, you need to go in here probably to change different things depending on what you're measuring on, because then you're moving your hardware and measuring on different types of systems. So then you would surely sometimes need to change the refrigerant. That is done from this basic menu. Here, just a drop-down menu, and you select your refrigerant. Remember to do that when you start the measurement, before you're getting all the data. As I mentioned, you select different flow chart, different systems from this select process menu. So for a ClimaCheck, for a portable ClimaCheck on-site hardware system, you can have many different flow charts or processes set up for the same hardware. And then, but of course, you can only measure on maybe one system at a time. You're just at one system at a time measuring. So then you don't want the data to come into all of these flow charts. And then you can go in and activate and deactivate it with this data in enabled, so that these settings are for each process, for each flow chart, and you can then go in and activate or deactivate them with this data in enabled. So if you want to use this flow chart with your portable system, you select the refrigerant and you select this data in enable, and then the data will start coming in to that flowchart. As I showed in the energy statistics, you could there see that you could select and look at the cost instead of the kilowatt hours. And then, of course, you need to enter your tariffs. What are you paying for your energy? And that's for what this window, it looks like this. So you can go in and you can select up to 4 different tariffs for different parts of the day and the week. And then if you then choose to look at the cost instead of the energy consumed, it will then just multiply these different tariffs with the energy consumed depending on the time of day. And of course here you also have the option, so you only need to set up this once and you can import it if you have more than one ClimaCheck online measurement. I mentioned it just shortly that you had these different energy signatures. So depending on different time of the day, high and low load, typically opening hours for a store or office hours for an office, you can use for your measurement. You have this. You can go in and you can select your schedule or where you want it to be stored as a high load, high signature, and where you want to have the low signature. So in this case here you have 8 to 6 p.m. is high load, the rest of the day is low load, and that's the same for the whole week. Of course you can select there, so if you don't have any, if you have want the low load signature also in the weekend, you would select this and you can just hit low signature up here. So this can be set up for all the different measurements you have on ClimaCheck Online. Okay, so far we only looked at a single circuit process. Of course, when you have fixed installs, it's very often that you have more than one system, more than one circuit in the same plant, in the same location. Then we work with this overview or plant overviews, so in this case here you have a system with two circuit systems in parallel here, and then we set up this plant view. So when you go into this plant, you will go to select plant process from that menu. You select this plant. The first thing you will see is this plant overview, so you get a good overview of your systems, or the chillers that's installed in the system, what they're doing right now. You have different tabs up here, so you have the plant we are on now is what you can enter at first. You then have an energy statistics tab where you have total energy for all the, so in this case for both of these chillers. And then you can also go in and look at the individual chillers. So if we move on, we now moved from the plant tab here to the first chiller. And here you have all the system table, the graphics, what we looked at just for one single circuit so far, you have for both of the circuits here in the chiller, and then you can go to the next chiller up here. So basically you have one of these tabs for each chiller you connect. Then you both get a good overview, but you can also go into the details and look at your measurement on each chiller. Yeah, and of course the energy statistics, the settings and everything will be the same, but it will be for the whole system, for all the connected chillers when you look at this. Finally, there is also a possibility to set up what we call the status or overview with these different lights, so green, yellow, and red. And what this is then alarms or limitations for different values. So you see you have the SCI, you have a CUP, power, you have capacity, approach, superheat, and so on. So you can set up alarms and warnings on the ClimaCheck online server. Let's say you have that for one chiller. You can set it up like this, and then you add more chillers, or you have many chillers on your plan. You can just add the chillers, and that will then use the same alarm setup automatically. So you only set up the alarms at one point for this type of system, and then if you have more measurements with the same type of system that uses the same type of alarms or controls, you can just add. So in this case here, each of the rows here is one chiller. So you have 5 different chillers. You only need to set it up once, and then you just add the chillers, and you get a very quick overview. Okay, which one is worst? Which one should I start working with? Well, probably the one that has the most red or yellow lights. The one on top here, mostly green. We can wait with that. We need to concentrate on the ones down here. So very quick overview. If you have many chillers, you get a quick overview to see which ones you need to start working with. And this is also then a part of the online server that you can set up for your system. All right, that was the final picture, and I hope you find this interesting, and you start using the online server. In level 2 training, we go more, as I mentioned, we go more into detail to how to set up alarms and how to set up, look at the signature and energy signatures and how to use them. But for now, this was an overview of the online server. Thank you.